Welcome back to the Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity. We're having a wonderful conversation in studio today with my guest, Simone Sloan, who is a business and leadership coach. Thank you so much for coming in studio today.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's wonderful. I just love when I can get people in studio instead of on the phone, because it just, you know, the energy, it's just so much better when you can see somebody in the eye, especially someone so beautiful as you. So that's why I had to do video today, so I can see the whole world. You know, now everybody knows. See, doesn't she have a great smile? Okay, so we're talking all about leadership and essence. And so, you know, I always like to kind of get practical when we talk about these things with people, because, you know, it's great to have the theory, but sometimes I feel like people learn more when they can kind of see the application of it. So I'm wondering if maybe you can tell a story for us of maybe someone who came to you that was having some challenges, whether it was in his business life, his personal life, and sort of where you saw the real challenge was in their leadership, and how you helped them to sort of shift it, and then what the outcome was.
Sure. In terms of the clients that I work with, right, really around their personal branding and their leadership style. Right. This in particular individual was really the issue was around influencing others, and working with their vendors to get them to do what they want to do in terms of their agenda versus their vendor's agenda.
Right.
And when you look at that too, some of the things were around communication. Some of the things were about collaboration. Really even stepping back and looking at, well, what do I need? And, you know, first step is with self in doing this, right? Right. What do you need? And how can you communicate that to others so it actually means something? And so I think the first step really is to identify the needs of your organization or your family or your team, your volunteering organization, and really understanding what you need. Not only that it's all about you, but this is a great opportunity to say, team, here is where we are in our this decision making in terms of where we are in our sales, etc. But really getting that input in terms of what they see from the customer experience side, from the vendor side. Is it in terms of, you know, the how much commitment people have in terms of working? What are the key things that influence them? Because you may be saying, money, 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 money. Right. But really, it could be that what the person really wants is just to be valued or to be heard, to have that opinion. Right. And so those were some of the things that we kind of stepped back at and gave it a look in terms of the organization.
Yeah, I remember there was some study done. I don't remember how long ago. It was a little while ago, but they found that what people would do more for recognition than for actual money or monetary incentives. And as employers, sometimes we think, or as business people, we sometimes think, oh, well, I just need to pay the person more money. And sometimes it's not about the money at all. It's the intangible things. It's the recognition. It's the support, the moral support in a way. The emotional support sometimes means a lot more to people.
Absolutely. And it's also, too, alignment of the values.
Yes.
Right? In terms of how you make decisions. Are you going to be the person who will back that individual good in terms of decision making to help them? So those were some of the things that, too, when I was looking at the organization as a whole and their team, in addition to his management style, of how they were actually being impacted in those kind of silos.
I see.
Once we're able to get all those issues out on the table, and not by looking at really looking at it from the management side, looking at it from the team side, and getting everybody on the table and just, okay, this is where we are, guys. What do we do about this? So it becomes not you, blame, shame game. It becomes more of a collective, okay, how we're going to work together to get to the vision that we all align to. And getting that buy-in, having them being heard, the contribution, right? And that trickles down, because when they feel valued, it's amazing, right?
About what size organization was this?
This is like between 1 to 50. It's basically what it works. So they were like 25 team people.
Okay. And so, because, you know, sort of the larger the organization gets, the trickier it can be to really get that buy-in and really empower people. But this really can work regardless of the size of the organization, right?
It can work in the size of the organization, but what I find is that with this, as those organizations get larger and they're larger, right?
Right.
One person, they've gone through this transformation, if you will, and awareness and distinctions, and now want to do these actions, but they may run up against an area where they may not have had those trainings, and so the resistance comes in. So it becomes even the person in the leadership style saying, what actions can I take? I've just got this great awareness and I want to do so much, but then I now have to work with someone who's never had the training, and do I start over again? And so those are some barriers, if you will, or challenges that you may experience in that. And that's where it comes down to your values and the vision. And if those are aligned in making your decisions, you can't go wrong.
Right. And also, as you give more power sort of to the people, as you're empowering them, you also have to give them authority, right? So if they're working on a project and they don't have a budget, you're not really empowering them. They really can't do anything. So, you've got to do both, give people the responsibility in addition to the authority so they can truly live into the vision that you're trying to create.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that does take in terms of the authority. And that comes back to the whole trust element of it, right? And you're actually doing and owning it. What happens, good, bad, or whatever happens, you own that decision. And it just empowers people to want to do good.
Right. Yeah, I know also they've done some studies of like some of the best places to work, and they find that the ones where the company put the employees first above the customers became not just the best place to work, but then they became amazing companies and offered amazing products, because when you put your employees first, then they will go to bat to you. They will provide excellent customer service. They will do all kinds of things.
And that's where you find it. That's where the ROI comes into all that in terms of that customer experience. Because if the employee is happy and they know they can make decisions and it's okay to do the right thing for them, for the company, for the clients, they become the customers even happier, and you get those great reviews. You're getting the glowing, likes. So absolutely, it's all 360. And it's all encompassing.
Wonderful. Ooh, we've got a new Facebook watcher. Hey, Zena, welcome to the show. I see Zena joined us. How about when you're dealing with conflict, right? Because conflict happens all the time in the workplace and in our personal lives or in all kinds of situations. How do we bring sort of this idea of leadership and essence when we when we get into a situation where there's some conflict going on?
Got it. When you have the conflict, right, it's sort of... The question is not necessarily he said, she said. It's right. It's going back again into self, and what are you responsible and how do you show up to that relationship? Right.
What are you creating in your life?
Absolutely. And when you're talking about not only creating that aspect too, in terms of what are you owning, in terms of maybe contributing to that conflict, because it's not always the other person. It's a dual relationship.
Right.
And then that comes into the understanding around of self and then of others. What is the motivating or demotivating factor in this conversation? And really understanding the communication lines, really understanding how people are relating to each other and the collaboration efforts. And it's not always about the thing that's causing the conflict. There are many more layers around that.
Yeah, I mean, do you find, I guess, most of the time it's really communication or miscommunication in some ways?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Any other fun examples of leadership in essence, or something unusual or unexpected that you could relate to our audience?
Unexpected. Well, I was at this conference this morning and I thought it was really amazing because they were talking about connectivity. Not connectivity just in terms of using technology, but how you use technology. And I learned about this really great organization where they limited resources in one country, say for example India, and they, in terms of literacy rates are very low. But what this platform did was enable the grandmothers of another country to connect with this younger generation and to teach that, those values, and to teach things and expose these children to things that would never be. That's leadership.
Okay. So again, leadership is not always about meeting a deadline or putting out a product on time. It's about creating a situation where you can foster something new happening, something to grow from it.
Absolutely.
That might not have been able to grow from it previously.
Absolutely.
So as I mentioned, much earlier, I find like this conversation around leadership and values and stuff is much more common these days. I mean, you've been doing this work for a while now. Have you seen anything shift around the conversation around leadership in the last several years? What have you noticed the difference to be?
Well, I'm noticing that it's not just about going into a room for 3 days and doing that learning.
Think tank.
Exactly, and then coming out and then trying to apply. It's more about integrating it now, and really from the bottom up, because like you said, in terms of thought, in terms of the diversity of thought, in terms of connection, in terms of problem solving, it's not coming from the people in the room anymore. It's coming from such a greater distance, and the ability to influence the greater mass. I mean, that's the powerful thing about this, where we're going now with it.
Right. Wow. That's so funny. I mean, it's interesting that you bring up the idea of integration, because this is something that's also very important in my own life with some of the spiritual work that I've been doing as, going into this role as a facilitator, as a shaman, and how in our community we really focus on how are you integrating these experiences. It's so easy now to go out and have, a peak experience, whether it's a spiritual experience or, a peak athletic experience, doing these extreme sports or even a peak business experience. But now you come back and it's like, okay, now how do we integrate this into our day-to-day lives?
Absolutely.
Like, this is where the real gold is. This is where today's world and today's challenges are really meeting us.
Absolutely. And when you think about it too, in terms of the why around what you're doing, and because that's going to drive your intentions and the purpose. And if your employees or your children, if you're the parent, or your community and your organization really believe in what you're doing, they come on board and are willing to roll up their sleeves and even give further than that, right? And because leadership, it's not a one-time thing or with essence that you just do and go, okay, we did it, check.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. All right. Believe it or not, it's time for us to take our last commercial break of the hour. Wonderful. Thank you, all my peeps on Facebook. It's great to see so many people watching the live stream. I really appreciate it. Again, just type something in the comments field if you guys have any questions, because we're coming into our last segment. So this is your opportunity. Ask Simone or myself a question about leadership and essence, and we'll be more than happy to answer it. So please stay tuned. You're listening to the Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, and we'll be right back.